want to encourage you that no matter what you're going through, what you have been through, or what it looks like, God has the master plan for your life. And he can turn your worst days into your best days. He will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. God will move you from pain to purpose. So you be encouraged on today. From pain to purpose, been through some tough times, but never stop letting the light of Jesus shine. I'm determined to pass through these tests and trials. I'm focused on my destiny and what God has for me. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Motivation Moment with Marlyn. Hey. We're so excited that you tuned in to join us on today in this special episode of Motivation Moment with Marlyn. I'm excited to have my beautiful sisters with me here in this episode. And they are, I've got to introduce you to them. We have Sharon, Lady Phelps, and Ravery, and they have come to join us and to hang out with us on this set. So y'all just show them some love. Put some hearts in the comment section. Give them some waves. Ladies, y'all say hello to the Motivation Moment.
Hello.
We are truly excited to be here. Thank you all for the hearts and all the love that you're showing them. Thank you so much. We're excited. Make sure that you share this episode on your page. If you're watching this on the YouTube channel, make sure that you share the link, because we have something so special to say. And we know that there's a mom and even a dad that's going to be blessed by the things that God has given to us to share, to help them along their journey, for those that may be battling grief or just trying to overcome the loss of a child. Each one of us have sat in this very unwanted pool of sisterhood. You know, we didn't elect to be here, but yet God knew that we could carry this cross. And so we're here to empower you. We're here to encourage you. And we're here to push you to purpose. You know, we know what it's like personally to lose a child and to battle grief, but we want to share our story of triumph through tragedy. We want to share our story of purpose, even in the midst of our pain. So if you know someone that will benefit and be blessed by what we have to say, and not just even the loss of a child, because people have lost their spouses, some have lost, you know, a parent, others have lost, you know, a best friend. Listen, make sure you get this episode to them, because we want to encourage them and let them know that it's not over. Grief can stifle people. Grief can cause you to want to give up, you know, on life and want to walk away. And sometimes so many people sit in that pool of silence all by themselves, but we're here to be their voice. We're here to push them to purpose, and we're here to see them soar and be all that God has called them to be. So I want to jump right in, sisters, right into our episode. I want to jump in, and Lady Phelps, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll pass the baton to Ravery, then we'll pass the baton to Sharon. And I just want to ask you, you know, just that first question that just kind of came to my mind, having lost a child, how has life, you know, been for you?
Oh my God.
First of all, how are you doing?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me on today. And it's amazing, as I was reflecting over the question, how has life changed for me? And I was like, everything about my life has changed. But if it's one thing that I would say definitely has changed for me as a mother, just having a conversation about my children. Even now, as I began to talk, I started to stumble over my words, because that's the most major thing that I deal with, is the question of how many kids do you have? Are you a mother? Or what are your children doing in life? And so you stumble to find the words on how to even communicate on a subject of, I have a child that's deceased. And so the most difficult part for me is the communicating to other people the fact that, hey, I've experienced death in a major way. And to give birth to a child is one thing, but to have to bury what you've given birth to, that's a hard conversation. So that's how life has changed for me tremendously, that conversation.
Oh, we've got to talk about it. That is so,
Yeah.
so good. That's so, oh my gosh, that's so good. Ravery, what about you? How has life changed for you since losing your son?
For me, I was on a spiritual journey. I just wasn't happy in life. So
Hmm.
years before he passed, I was on this journey. And when he passed, at that moment, I knew that was my time to make sure everything that I learned about my faith, my God, and believing in Jesus, I knew this was the time to really be that.
Mm.
Not just to my daughter, but to my parents and his friends, but to just be what I wanted to be. Not because something happened, I'm no longer going to be this person. So I learned to forgive at that moment.
Mhm.
At that very moment, I learned to forgive. At that moment, without knowing what happened, I said, to get through this, I must forgive.
Mhm.
Whatever's happening, I have to forgive. So I didn't carry unforgiveness with me. I carried everything. I pulled all the strengths that I realized who I was. I pulled all those strengths at one time, at that moment.
That's good. That's good. Sharon, how has life changed for you since, losing your son?
I had to learn how to live again.
Mm.
Um, when he passed, I stopped living. I literally stopped living. I was just existing. And so for me, learning how to live again, learning how to love, learning how to be a mother again, because I had two boys, and to be a mother of one now. Um, and it's just been different. It's been hard, and I'm getting through it, but I had to live. I had to learn how to live again.
Oh, wow. I'm just going to go in a circle because each one of you said something that I think we need to talk about. I just think we need to talk about it because so many people are in that same place that you're sitting in. And so I'm going to start with what Lady Phelps said, addressing the issue that when somebody asks, how many children do you have? Even if you have bonus children, which we call stepchildren, our first thought as mothers is always to identify with our biological children because all of their
Absolutely.
lives, they've always been in our equation. And so that's something, Lady Phelps, that I also had to learn to adjust to. And I actually asked my son, because he was very close to his brother. They were 7 years apart, but very close. And so I asked him, I said, when people ask you about, do you have a brother, or ask you about LA, I said, what do you say? And he said, I just tell him, yeah, I have a brother, and and he passed away. And I was like that. And he said, yeah, and I told him, I said, well, I feel like for me, when I say it, it leads into people feeling like sorry for you. And it's not that you're trying
Absolutely.
to, you don't want
Yeah.
anybody to feel sorry, but it's hard not to include your child because in your
Yeah.
heart, they're still your child. And so I know that there's a mom that's sitting out there, and they're, wondering, and they're really concerned, and they've dealt with this same issue and this same battle. Do I include, my child that has gone home to heaven, or do I just include the child now? And I would say to anybody that's dealing with that, do what's in your heart.
Yes.
You have to do what's in your heart. There's no one answer. There are times that I may put a post up and it's just now me and my son. And then there are times that
Yeah.
I put a post up and it may be me, my son, and my late son. It just depends on where I am at that moment. Sometimes I know we feel like when we address the issue of our deceased child, that, people get this sadness, and we're already trying to overcome our own layer of grief. And we're not trying to
Mhm.
say it out of pity, but at the same time, it's owning our truth, where we are,
Yes.
and owning our story. So I would say to anybody that's battling that, do what's in your heart in that moment. That may change from one day to the next, but do what's in your heart, in that moment. And then Ravery, you said something about, being on a spiritual journey. Journey to you is all about that. It's about this spiritual journey that God has us on to define and discover the very purpose for our life. I was sharing recently in a coaching session how purpose is not a one stop destination. You know, purpose is what God has called you to do right now. And so I just so appreciate you, Ravery, for sharing that about, you know, just being on this spiritual quest, this spiritual journey. And then this turning point in life pushed you to the point to say, you know, okay, this is where I am now. And you begin to embrace the healing part of forgiveness.
Yes.
And so many people can get stuck, you know, in that place. I don't know about you ladies, but, you know, my son was murdered and he was shot 3 times. And so it was very difficult for me to walk through the journey of forgiveness. You know, even as a pastor, I battled with it and I struggled with it, you know, but at some point I had to accept it. And then, you know, Sharon says something that I know all of us can agree with, and I'm going to give you all a chance to, you know, talk about it as well. Sharon talked about, you know, just what was it, Sharon? Like just trying to find yourself again, you know, trying to live again, trying to adjust to this, what society calls a new normal. But I always say it's nothing normal about it. It's just that it's our new now. So that's what I call it. I don't really call it a new normal as much as it is, you know, the new now. So, you know, just talk, Lady Phelps, how, you know, how did you adjust? How was life adjusting for you? You know, Sharon was saying, you know, just trying to find herself. Sharon, I believe, are you single? You know, you're single, right?
I'm single. Yes.
So so you are adjusting as a single, you know, being a mom of 2, and just trying to factor in emotions and battling grief, you know, alone. I'm certain you had close family and friends that were there, but still trying to adjust to this new life. Lady Phelps, how was things, you know, how is things for you, you know, adjusting to this new now?
I had to literally give myself permission, basically piggybacking off of you, Bishop, give myself permission to wake up and face whatever I felt for that moment or that day. Especially being in a position of a first lady, a lot of times people will project a certain strength that you're supposed to have, a certain image that you're supposed to keep up. And not just a first lady, I've always led, even from a business perspective, in the marketplace. So people look at you like, she's strong, she can take it, she can make it. So I had to adjust literally with giving myself permission to scream, to cry, to be upset, to be mad, to ask questions. And I even have to say, I commend one of the moms who said bravery, who said, hey, it propelled me basically into my spiritual journey. For me, I had to give the Lord a new yes because I didn't understand it. I'm like, God, listen, this should have happened when I was doing everything I wanted to do. But now I'm serving you. Now I'm doing everything that you told me to do. And I literally have to face the trauma of losing a child. How do I minister to others when I'm bleeding on the inside? So for me, I had to give the Lord a new yes because I didn't understand it, being very honest with you. And I think even for, you know, the other mom, and I'm sorry saying that, hey, I had to learn to live again. I kind of, you know, forced myself to live and not have a chance to heal. That was me. I kind of went backwards with it. I forced myself to live. I put on as many events as I could do. I wrote a book. I did everything I could do. But when all of the dust settled, this was still my reality. So, you know, I had to say, you know what? You got to make an adjustment unless you're not going to make it through this. Lorana, give yourself permission to feel whatever you feel when you wake up in the morning. So that's me. That's how I had to adjust literally to my new now.
Yes. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. That was powerful. Ravery, you want to, you know, just talk about it? That was so powerful.
Well, my new now is, it's really hard because I include, my son was murdered too. He was murdered. He was murdered in the middle of the night. They shot him at him 13 times. You know, he was hit 3, dead on the scene in another state. So I had to wait. I had a lot of time to process before it hit me. And so for those days, I learned to live in this moment and try to find something in this moment that I like. Just the simple things, a butterfly, see the trees across the street swaying. I find something in it for me to get through this moment because I had a daughter who was really hurt, you know. So I had to be strong for her.
That's good. Sharon?
Yes.
Because I know
For
yours, I know
me,
your
mhm,
story too.
yes. For me, it was, I had to decide if I was going to, with living, I had to decide if I was going to grieve or fight.
Mm.
And I decided to fight. And so I was just going and going and going and going. And one of the things that I was neglecting was my son, my other son, my baby son, my younger
Because
son.
your son's case was almost national, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And so it took them 2 years for them to get the young man who killed Chris. And so I was focused on that, and I wasn't focused on my other son. And so Chris came to me in a dream, and he told me, he said, "Ma, I'm not coming back, and you need to focus on Jamil." If anybody else had told me that, I wouldn't have done it.
Mhm.
But to hear that, so I started to focus more on my son and started focusing more on me and learning everything over again. You know, how to love, what I like, what I don't like,
Yes.
because I was used to being, the mother of, two healthy boys, and so it was a process.
It's a
But I'm here
process.
now. Yes, yes,
Yes, and that's what
yes,
we want to say, to a mom that's watching us or to a dad that's watching us and you've lost a child. We want you to know it's a process. Each one of us,
yes,
we're on a different place. We're in a different place on our healing journey, but we want you to know that it is a process.
yes,
I love how Lady Phelps, was sharing her heart about how, she was so busy at one time, that sometimes doing so many events that, she had to eventually come to the point to say, Lorana, like in other words, heal yourself, like, and we have to
mhm,
get to that point to realize that, we can't avoid the pain. We can't
mhm,
avoid we can't avoid our other children. We can't avoid the reality that we're sitting in,
yes,
and neither can we get stuck in it. Ladies, y'all know it's a tough place, because you're trying not to avoid it. You don't want to, I mean, it's there, it's just there. And there's no book, there's no blueprint that can actually tell you how to get out. It is really called the process. And the
yes,
process is just the in-between stage of life where all you can do is trust God, surround yourself with men and women of faith. You can't do it on your own. It really takes God to bring that healing power into your heart, mom, into your heart, dad, to help you to navigate through the waters of grief. And that's what we're sharing with you. We all have our journey. And again, we're all still on this journey, because when you lose a child, you don't just, hit a switch and then that's it. You move on in life. That child is forever with you. I still talk to my son.
yes,
I'm certain they still talk to their sons. They're very much a part of your life. And when your children have children, you always see them and you always see your grands in your child that you buried. And so we just want to encourage somebody that's just there. You've been trying to pick up the pieces. You may be a wife that lost a spouse, or a husband that lost a wife, or a sibling that lost, your brother, your sister. All of us have children, and all of our children, though we lost, our sons, our children lost their brothers. And so we
yes,
understand what it's like to watch our children have to navigate through the waters of their own pain. And we want to let you
yes,
know that there is a greater purpose through the pain that you go through. You don't have to sit in that place of grief. My first step would be just process where you are. Sometimes you have to just take it in. I had to just stop. I was just like you all. I had to at some point say, where am I at? Like, where am I at on this road? I did the same thing. I was doing conferences. Everything was in LA's memory, scholarships. I mean, I was just doing it all. And then it caught up to me, and when it caught up to me, I was almost at a nervous breakdown and depression. And sisters, some people see us post pictures on social media and they don't know what it takes us every day to still get up and fight
oh,
through
yeah,
the pain of losing our child. Would you agree with
yes,
that? It's like, it's not a
yes,
5-year thing or a 2-year thing. Sometimes people say, oh, well, you're at the 4th year mark or anniversary. They may have gone on, but to you, it's very much in your now still. That is your child. and you didn't go on. Can you know, I don't know who wants to start this. Let me start with Bravery, then I'll go with Sharon, and then Lady Phelps. You know, just dealing with that when people think you should move on, or you know they've moved on, and in your heart, you know, sometimes I know my son, he was 29, so he would have been about 33 now. And so when people, it's like almost every year somebody turns the age he would have been, I look and I'm like, wow, that would have been LA, you know. And when I
Yes.
see his son, who's now 14, I see so much of LA in him that I'm just like, you know, my thoughts are just like, gosh, if your dad had been here, you know. So
Yeah.
how would you encourage somebody, Bravery, that's sitting in that place and they're seeing their child through the lens of others that's no longer here? How would you address that and encourage them?
I would just encourage them that even though they're physically not here, you can feel their presence. You can, when you're in doubt about something and you know they would give you a word. I would be nervous to do, you know, anything in front of a big crowd. My son said, what are you afraid of? What's the worst that can happen? What's the best that can happen? I said, well, I mean, really nothing. He said, so just go do it. So I still have those conversations for
Yes.
encouragement for his energy. He was so high strung. He had green locks and a mohawk, and I had some of his locks in my locks.
Oh,
His
wow.
energy,
I love that.
he was very unique, and I admired that because I tried to put holds on that. So it made me like, you sure you want to dye your hair different colors? He said, well, who is it hurting? I'm just being myself. I said, well, you know what? You're right. I'm thinking of what other people are thinking, and you're telling me I'm just being me. I'm just living my life. I'm not hurting anyone with green hair. I just have green hair. I'm not in trouble. So I really learned to embrace who I am from him, and I share that with others. Just embrace who you are,
I love that.
regardless of what everybody else says. And that allows me to really enjoy life now, with not thinking, oh, what do they say if I do this? I just do it, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
We're gonna all get green tomorrow. No. I love that. I love that. I love that. Sharon?
Yes. For me, I would say take, for me, it was day to day. The hardest part for me, still to this day, is Chris's birthday. Chris passed 10 days. He had turned 22. 10 days after that, he got shot and killed. And so his birthday is August the 17th. And that's a very hard day for me. I literally stay in the bed. I don't do anything. I take off work, I stay in the bed. Something comes over me. Something comes over me where I just cry. You know, the kids will send text messages and all of that. So I say, just, you know, feel what you need to feel.
Yeah.
The anniversary of his death is, you know, on the 27th of August. And this was my first year of 5 years of coming to work, just having a normal day. And it was okay. It was okay. We didn't do any events or anything. I just went to the grave, put some flowers out that Saturday. I just say to moms, dads, family, just do what works for you. Do what works for you and take day to day.
That's good. That's good. Lady Phelps?
You know, I just have to be real. I'm so myself. Between Bravery and Sharon, they just it's like so good to be in this safe place. It's a club that you don't ask for, but I'm just taking it all in. Like, wow, you feel that too? Wow, that's what you go through too. So excuse me, but I just had to say that, and I thank you again, Bishop, because it is a safe place that we just don't get to be able to communicate in. And for me, much like Sharon and Bravery, I can't really navigate too far from what they're saying because there's so many similarities in how you get through this. Like Bravery said, taking a piece of Sammy. I agree. I took a piece of Sammy in me, and it was his personality. He had a huge personality, like humongous. He was always himself. And one thing that helps me get through the process is even some of the things that I did not agree with him doing. Like, I wanted you to do this, Sammy. But Sammy said, Mom, I want to do this. And I'm thankful that nothing that he wanted to do, is trapped in that grave, right? So that's the way I process it different. And I'm like, I'm so glad you did what you wanted to do. I'm so glad you wrote your music. I'm so glad you shaved the sides of your hair off. I'm so glad you did not let me put you in this box and you live life. And so that's what I grab onto. And I say, Lorana, you gotta live. If nothing else, you gotta be able to, you know, like duplicate Sammy's system of nothing went in that grave with him. And I got that from my youngest son, Emmanuel. He helped me with that. He said, Mama, nothing Sammy did went inside of that grave. We can still hear his music. We can look at music videos, and it's absolutely amazing. So Bravey, I agree with you with that. And then Sharon, I agree with you. Like, I just give myself permission to take day by day. You know, here I am 7 years. My son was murdered in 2013. Shook my entire world. First year of ministry, just got married. I mean, it shook my entire world. My husband had a stroke the day we buried him. So it was so much to get through with that. But I've learned this. The most important thing through the process, like Bishop said, is allow myself to feel whatever I'm feeling. I don't care if it's been 10 years. If I'm having a moment, I'm having my moment. And I know what helped me is like riding through our old neighborhood, a happy, safe place that Sammy really enjoyed, and just trying to grab up great memories. Because one thing through it, though, I choose to live. I do. I'm being very honest with you. I won't let people project a certain amount of sadness on me, because number one, I know that's not what my father wants. And number two, I know that's not what Sammy would want, me and my father in heaven. So I choose to live. I choose to take some kind of, you know, hey, if I have faith, I got to have it in this area too. And so say, I'll give it to him, say, God, take this away. I don't want to do this. I don't want to live in grief. And so I'm with your movement. Grief, you lose again. I'm done.
Yes, yes. And you know, oh my gosh, this is so good. And I know our time is kind of, you know, winding down, but, you know, I really pray that for the mom that's out there, you can see that, you know, we're echoing pretty much the same thing, is that we choose to live. And we want you to know that God wants you to live. You know, this is not the end. You have to go through your process and your time of grief. All of us, again, we're in different seasons and different stages of grief in our life, but you have to declare, like my t-shirt, grief, you lose again, because there's a winner on the inside of you. And our Journey to You movement, I've got to put my book up because you got to see this. This is our Journey to You sisterhood, you know, series. And I want you to go to my website and grab a hold of this book, the Journey to You book. You know, I've discovered as women are dealing with grief, you know, I tell them all the time, like Sharon said, you know, you have a tendency to lose yourself, and God wants you to find you. There's a winner on the inside of you. And if you go to my website, it's flashing across your screen all throughout, you know, this episode, www.motivationwithdrmarlyn.com. Grab a hold to the products, but get the book Journey to You, because it's going to help you on this journey. You know, we didn't get here to this place by ourselves. And we don't want you to be deceived that because we're smiling, you know, that there are not times that we go through pain. And like Sharon said, and Lady Phelps said, you know, and Ravery said, you know, whether it's the birthday or the anniversary of their homecoming, and all the things, our other children, you know, we have to process a life in a sense that we can't stop living because so many people are counting on us living. Did you hear me? We can't stop living because so many people are counting on us living. When we, you know, said goodbye to our sons on this side, there's a hope on the inside of us that we know we're going to see them again. And so that's what causes us to live. That's what causes us to win. And we want you to know that that's what's going to cause you to live and win. Your child, your spouse, you know, whoever it is, your best friend, they want you to live. They don't want you to just sit, you know, in the place of grief forever. They want you to remember them, but they also want you to remember the good times, the happy times. I love how Ravery said, you know, about the green hair. I'm telling you, maybe we'll all go green one day, you know, but I just love that, you know, and I love how, you know, Sharon talked about the things about her son, and, you know, and how, you know, Christopher was, and his passion for life. And Lady Phelps shared about the music and all the things, you know, that Sammy did. And it just reminded me of all the things my son, LA, did. I oftentimes try to keep him in this religious box, and he would not let me. I'm telling you, he was fighting to climb out of that religious box. And he coined the saying that I say all the time, you know, and that's let's get it, or it's time to make boss moves. He always called me the boss queen, you know. So if you follow me on social media, you'll see some of those 3 tags there, you know, the boss queen. LA was just like straight up himself. And I love that. He was never trying to impress people. He was never trying to be anybody he wasn't. It was like, I am who I am, mommy, you know. And I just love that. And that's the piece that I took from him, is to always be my true authentic self, not being who people think I am. I'm like at 100 most times anyway, and I'm all right with that. You know, if I'm not at 100, something is probably wrong, but being my true authentic self. And so we want to encourage you, for every mom and for every dad that's out there, and you may have lost a child, or you've lost a spouse, you've lost a best friend or somebody close, there is life after grief. Your life did not end. Let me just ask you, sisters, you know, once you know, and I know, again, all of you are on you're in a different season, in a different place in your healing journey. And I'll start with Lady Phelps, and then Ravery, and then Sharon. You know, just tell me, you know, out of it. And again, I know we're all in different places in different seasons, but what did you discover through the process of your pain and grief? You know, what, if I could say it like this, what good came out of it? And let me preface this with, before they say it, I want to say, for those who would look and say, what good came out of it? Like, how could something good come out of losing your child? And that's because there's always purpose in our pain. Joseph said in the book of Genesis, he said, what you meant for evil, God meant it for good. And so I like to encourage people when I'm doing, you know, my coaching sessions for Journey to You. I always encourage them that pain is a fuel that will help you get to your purpose. There are things that were in all of us, and we're going to share them, that were in all of us, that probably pain pushed us to, that had it not been for pain, we may not have even gotten to fulfill some of our purpose. So, you know, Lady Phelps, and then Ravery, and then Sharon, you know, what was it that you could see that the good that came out of it, the purpose that came out of the pain that you sat in?
I mean, again, we're just echoing each other. I know for a fact that my pain propelled me to purpose. I know that. I would have never told my story. I mean, I'm being honest. I probably would have never wrote a book. I would have never started outreach when it comes to women who have lost their children. I would have never done a women conference from pain. My pain is pushing me into my purpose, where hundreds of women were able to come in and be healed and set free. I would have never, because one thing about pain is not going nowhere. You understand what I'm saying? Every day someone is faced with some type of tragedy, some type of life-altering situation. Though we can recover from pain, let me make that clear. Yes, there is a recovery room for pain. I believe that. Do it ever just slide all the way away? No, it's always an ache to remind you that this was present. However, just like I said, you can have permission to cry, permission to scream. There also is permission to get up. And so I know for a fact that my pain propelled me not only to my purpose, but it also pushed me on a different level to get up and make sure that every single day count in my life. I'm telling you, my pain worked for my good. It really did. I know that to be a fact. I'm laughing, but please know behind this, it's been many tears, much fasting, and a lot of prayer, a lot of confusion, a lot of depression. I'm going to be honest with you. I've never put on a fake face. However, I made a choice, Bishop Marlyn, that I'm not getting ready to die in this pain. There is purpose in your pain. I know that. I've walked that thing out. Believe me.
Yes, I believe it. I believe it. Ravery, what would you say, you know, the purpose that came through the pain?
I actually call it from pain to paintings.
All right.
My son was the artist. I'm a writer. I'm an artist with words. He was the artist, tattoos, drawing. He did music as well. He was a character, and literally, I share my social media. He turned himself into a character, a cartoon character, and he looked like his character. And when he passed, I didn't write anymore. I didn't know. I said, oh God, maybe this wasn't my calling. Maybe I'm not supposed to write. Even though I enjoyed writing, I couldn't find any inspiration to write. I sat at a blank canvas and said, okay, what am I going to do with this? And I just started painting. And I have been painting ever since. Having art shows. I did my own art show in 2017, I think, 18. And I'm learning new techniques. This is my piece. I can be anything. I can dream anything. I can make it happen, create it, and be in peace while I'm doing it. So for now, pain is from my pain to painting. That's what I call it all the time.
I
In my
like that.
journey.
I like that. Sharon?
For me, what came out of it was I started an organization called The Strength of a Mother. And our strength is shown by what we do with our pain. And also I became a life coach. And for me, Chris was the type of child, he was just outgoing. And he was well known. And for me, I've always been on the back. So now it has pushed me to the front. Getting a lot of speaking engagements, doing interviews, and wanting to help and having that burden on me to help other families. So I stepped into it, you know, and so that's why I always say our strength is shown by what we do with our pain. So I'm taking my pain and with my strength is pushing me into something great.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, sisters, as well. Let's talk a little bit about because I know that there's moms and dads that are out there and they're still raising children, or they may have adult children. They're not necessarily raising them, but you know, they're very much a part of their life. And I know I heard each one of you talk about, you know, your son or your daughter. I know Ravery has a daughter. Lady Phelps, I know you have a son, and I know that Sharon has a son, and I have a son. And so, you know, how has the adjustment been in raising them, though they're grown? So we're not technically raising our sons, but, you know, but they're millennials, so we got to raise them. But they still need our guidance. Would y'all agree? They still need us. They still need us. So we're still there, you know, as their support system. But going from, you know, burying a child, losing a child, and now having, you know, a child there or children that's still present in your life, even bonus children that's present in your life, how has the adjustment been as far as the dynamics of that relationship? Not necessarily saying, you know, are you close or are you distant? No, we know we're all close to our children, but let's just deal with a truth. And I'll be the first one so that I can open the pool up so that you can hear, you know, my heart on the truth. Just having two sons, when LA passed away, my oldest son, I found myself in a position where I was like, I needed to know where my younger son, Kenny, was at all times. It was like, I had to deal with a fear. And yes, I was very much a pastor, you know, very much a pastor. I am a word of faith preacher. I can preach faith up and down, but there was a fear that I truthfully had to conquer about being the mother of only one son. And so I realized that, you know, it was like, if I didn't hear right back from him, you know, if I text him or called him, you know, my mind would go in 1,000 different directions. And it was just so much that was going on. And I found myself where I was really smothering him. And I had a wake-up call when my son graduated from college, and he went to, we thought he was going to go to the NBA. He went to the NBA Summer League, and he played in the Summer League, and then he got injured. And so when he got injured, the Houston Rockets, who he played for, the team he played for in the Summer League, they signed another guard that day. I was like, oh gosh, I was having a meltdown because I just knew I would be right there in Houston, you know, at all the games. But no, God had other plans, and he sent my son all the way across seas to France. And it was in that moment, once I said my goodbyes to him, hugged him, kissed him at the airport, that I got in the car and I broke down crying. I felt like I cried harder in that moment than I did at LA's funeral. And I could not pull myself together. I'm going to be totally transparent because I know some mom is there. And I could not pull myself together. I was afraid to drive because I just felt like I felt like it was a death. And, I was angry at God. I was mad at God. I was like, you took my oldest son. It came out. I'm sorry. Somebody might judge me. I'm just telling my truth, and I said, you took my oldest son. Now you take my son, the only son that I have, and you put him all the way across seas where I can't see him. And I'm just fussing at God at the airport, Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, in the car with this nervous breakdown, having a fit. And after I finished crying, and after I finished screaming and banging against the steering wheel and being angry at God, I then hurt myself. And when I hurt myself, that's when I realized that, God had to move him, because he could not live his life. And guess what? Neither could I.
Yeah, come on now.
Because I was still holding on to the pain. And as I was holding on to the pain, I was so afraid that him leaving, I could not control where he was. I wasn't in control anyway, but at least if I could get to him, I felt like I could manage it. But God put him where I couldn't get to him. He was 18-hour flight away. That was just a flight alone. I couldn't get to him. But it was in that moment when God shifted him that I began the healing process of my own, to learn to trust God with releasing him back to God. So sisters, and just sharing your moment of transparency. And I know our time, it's kind of winding down, but how has life been for you all, adjusting to being a mom and with your children, that you have now? I'll start with Ravery, and then I'll go with, we'll hear from Sharon, and then Lady Phelps.
Well, for me, when Terry graduated from college, he put his degree in my lap. He said, I did everything that you all expected me to do. Now can I live my life? And it stunned on me. Like, he was doing all of this for us, and he did an amazing job at everything he did. And then when he passed 2 years later, I said, wow, he really only had 2 years to live his life his way. So with my daughter, I encourage her to live her truth. What makes her happy? I see the happiness. I see the joy. You can feel it in her presence. I get her some of my strength from her, but I enjoy seeing her live this life, not under anyone's rules, which Terry still was himself. But when he made that statement to me, I kind of felt awful that, oh, wow, you did this for us, not for you, but thank you. But, I just encourage her to carve out her joys. Carve it out for today. Set your intentions. Say your prayers. Think about it. Feel those energies, and make the day happen how you want it to happen. And she's a very happy young lady. She really is a happy young lady.
I saw it. I saw it. She looks happy, and she's beautiful. She is beautiful. Sharon?
For me, because Christopher got killed in college, in the student union. So when it was time for Jamil to go away off to college, and he had many offers, and I decided I was going to go with him. I had positioned myself to move with him. And so he said to me, Mom, why are you going? You have to live your life, and I have to live mine. But I had that fear because I had lost one son, while he was away, and I couldn't get to him. By the time I got to him, he was already gone. And I was like, oh my God. So when he decided to take the offer at Louisville, and he called me, he said, I'm signing with them, because he was there. And I said, okay. And I said, God, you got to help me. So when we went up to take him to school and the dorm and everything, I knew he was going to be okay. I knew, because he had grown up a little bit, and we had already went through so much, and he needed to go away. So we sat down, we had a conversation. He said, well, Mom, you got to start doing stuff and stay busy, and live your life, because I need to live mine. And so it's real. It's real, it's real. It's real. When you lose one child and you have another child, you're going to hold on tight. But, God will start releasing you to take your arms off him a little bit and let him live. And now he's doing great things, and I'm so happy and proud of him. and I'm excited. And so people ask me, isn't it bittersweet? I said, no, it's not bittersweet to me. It's sweet. It's sweet. It's sweet. It's not bittersweet because this is something different for him. And so I'm in the moment with him.
I love that. I'm in the
Yeah.
moment with him. I love that. Lady
Yeah.
Phelps.
Ooh, you hit a soft spot with this one. I was doing good. I was doing so good because literally, for years, I was known as the hairstylist and the mom of Sammy and Man. So when you seen me, you literally seen my boys everywhere I went. And so for me, after Sammy's death, um, Emmanuel, which I call him Man, he left right for basic training. Right after basic training, he went to Ole Miss and did 4 years in college. After he completed Ole Miss in college, he came home a little bit and he went to New York. And I'm like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. And I remember one time texting him, you okay? And that was my reality check. And he said, why do you always ask me if I'm okay? And so that's when I realized I had to release that fear of him, something happening to him. And I didn't realize that for, just like Bravery said, I had to literally let him be free to live. And so then I just started to embrace it differently and say, okay, God, I can't live like this. I cannot project this on him as well, because I can only imagine what he's feeling when I text him that, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And I literally didn't know that it was a system for me. For 4 years, I was texting Man, are you okay? Are you okay? And I said, I have driven him nuts with this. And he's such an old soul, full of wisdom. And he was like, you don't have to ask me. I'm always okay. And those words stuck with me, like, yes, because if I really believe that, you know, my Father in heaven, that I have the authority through him to give angels charge over Emmanuel, then why am I living in fear? And so I would literally say a prayer and say, okay, you gotta let go in this area. And so that's a soft spot. I'm still letting go. I'm still learning how to navigate through that. And I just have to be real honest with you. Though I have children through marriage, they both have phenomenal moms, so they don't need me in that aspect. I'm Miss Lorana to them. But to Emmanuel, I'm mom. You understand? And so I'm still learning how to let go, but I'm walking through it. I'm navigating through it. That's a soft spot for me. That's a real soft. My husband gets it. That's a man. He's a man. But for me, it's my only living child. You understand? So yes, I still go through things with that. I do, but I'm learning how to allow him to live without my fear over his life. So now you'll see, even in hashtags on Facebook, I'll put hashtag live, man, live. So I'm talking myself through allowing him to be free and not live in my fear.
That's so good. That is so good. And we know that there's a mom and dad that you've experienced the same thing, you know, that we've gone through. And it's not an easy transition. You have to get to that place for yourself. And sometimes your children, they're still here, they help you get to that place. I know, sisters, for me, I would send, you know, so many pictures to Kenny, you know, of me, him and his brother, or him and his brother, you know, and I'm in an emotional moment, and, you know, and then I send him the picture. He's just like, okay, Mom, you know, and I'm just like, no, let's cry together, you know, and he's just dealt with it. It's like he dealt with it in his way. And I'll just kind of keep it going. But I had to pull back from sending the pictures, you know, because I realized that his day could have been going in a whole different way. And then here I am dragging him into, you know, my grief and my pain. So I stopped sending the pictures. He never said anything, but I just kind of had to get a kingdom revelation that let him live. Like Lady Phelps said, you know, I had to let him live. And I told God, Lord, I'm going to let him live, because I don't want you to keep sending my son so far away from me. And but even when he was there, or when, you know, when he's here, it's just something that I believe that for me, sisters, it's daily. It is daily. I can honestly say it is daily. Like I will text him whatever time of the night, whatever time of the morning, and it's just daily. And once I shoot a text, I have to just put a prayer behind it, like God's got him. At the end of the day, even if he was in
Yeah.
the house, I cannot. I always have this joke with him. I say the safest place is in the room. I said when you're right here with me, the safest place is in the room. Now the reality is, because he is a millennial, if he moved back in, we probably got about a good less than 24 hours before.
I agree with that.
You know what I'm saying? And once they get grown, it's kind of hard.
Get grown.
Yeah, it's time to go on. I miss you, but it's time to go on. But Ravery, you said something, and I think that this was true for me too. Like Lady Phelps was saying, and Sharon was saying, one thing that I had to do with Kenny was in letting him live, just really letting him enjoy life too. I don't think that, I think I raised him, even though he was kind of like a young adult when LA passed. I started looking at life different for him. And I didn't take things so serious anymore. I was just like, hey, let me just let you enjoy it. You've got to go through the waters of trial and error, be yourself. When he wanted to get, oh gosh, tat it all up, his thing was, Ma, I got your name, put my name on you. I was like, no, I know my name, I'm good. But I had to embrace that, even though I wasn't for all the tats. I mean, I don't think it's almost a raw spot on him now, I just had to let him live his life. That was what he wanted to do. He has his whole leg dedicated to his brother. I told him your brother would have been fine if you had just gotten a sheet of paper and a marker and just wrote the story. But I had to let him do it his way. I had to let him, and Lady Phelps, you said it, I had to let him live. I had to let him live. And we know there's some mom and dad. And it is our prayer that in our time together that you heard our heart. It's time for you to live, and it's time to let those around you live, your children, your spouse. It's time to let them live. Grief is a process. I want to encourage you. If you need to see a grief counselor, a grief therapist, it's needed. Do it. There are a lot of great people that's been anointed by God in the Christian arena and even outside of the Christian arena that can help you. Listen, we're not just saying, hey, get over it, live your best life, go, tour and travel the world. No, you take the time to walk with it in the seasons that you need to walk with it. But we just want to show you the face of an overcomer. I have a saying that LA always gave me, and that's the Boss Queen. And the acronym for BOSS is Blessed Overcoming Saved Sister. And we want you to know, sisters, that you are a boss. You are a blessed overcoming saved sister. You don't have to stay in that place of grief, because there's a life for you. There's purpose in everything that you go through. And this is not the end of your script. This is just a comma. Let me just ask you, sisters, how can those viewers that are watching, those moms and dads, how can they get in touch with you to, whether it's to bring you in to speak to their group, or get a hold to one of your paintings, Ravery or Sharon, to help you, just to get behind this movement that you have, Strength of a Mother? And Lady Phelps, I know that you're doing so many things, in the marketplace ministry, as well as, being a first lady at, New Faith. So how can our viewers, how can they get in touch with you? I'll start with Sharon, and then Lady Phelps, and then Ravery.
Yes, they can get in contact with me through Facebook, Sharon Starks, and also the Strength of a Mother. They can get in contact with me there.
Okay, so Sharon, and Strength of a Mother, you're on Facebook. Do you have a website?
No website.
No website. Okay, so while, and I want to say this too to our viewers, while those things, we're also putting them in the comment section. So Sharon, she'll make sure that it's in the comment section so that you can find her on Facebook and connect with Strength of a Mother. It's such a powerful movement. Sharon, I can remember supporting you when you did an interview with Pastor Creflo Dollar. And it was such a blessing going to the studio and watching him interview you as he was talking to you about how you overcame. Like I said, your case was national. So it was, you were at a different place because you were having to grieve on a national level with so many people. And when I was sitting there in that studio and I was watching you and just seeing your strength, as you were going through this, through the interview, and Pastor Dollar handled it, so well. And he was so sensitive to the nature, of it. I just wanted to applaud you, to let you know it was truly a blessing to me. I saw what you have, the strength of a mother, I saw you sitting in it. So I
Thank
applaud you,
you.
mighty woman
Thank
of God.
you.
I truly
Thank
do
you.
applaud you. I
Thank you.
applaud you.
Thank
And
you so
also,
much.
you're welcome. And Ravery, how can we get in touch with you for the paintings, the from pain to painting?
Yeah, from paint to paintings. On Instagram and Facebook at All the Rave Arts. And Rave is RAV. All the
Okay.
Rave Arts.
Okay, and it's also being put in the comment section, as well as Sharon and Ravery is talking. It's being put in the comment section, and make sure that you get a hold to these paintings. You know, I can't wait till you have your next show, Ravery,
Right.
your next painting exhibition. I would love to be a part of it. So make sure
Okay.
that you keep me posted and you
I
let me
will.
know. And it's so crazy. I've got to say this about Ravery. It's amazing how our sons connected us, because me and Ravery, we went to high school together. And this is so unbelievable, Lady Phelps and Sharon, that we never spoke to each other, not one day in 5 years, because high school back then you started in 8th grade, not one day in 5 years to each other. We don't know how. We saw each other in passing, but it was through the passing of our sons, 30 something years later, that we happened to connect. And there was something that I said to Ravery recently that I've always wanted to tell her, because I was pregnant with my oldest son at 14. And Ravery was a teenage mom as well, but she had her son, you know, closer towards our graduation. And I can remember when I was pregnant with LA, I was embarrassed and ashamed. And so I left our high school, you know, while I was pregnant, so nobody would know. And then I came back after I had the baby. So only those that were very close to me knew in that time and season that I was pregnant. But then Ravery, I watched her, because it wasn't popular, you know, to be a teenage mother back then. But I watched Ravery from afar. And I just watched how she carried her pregnancy as a teenage mom and coming to school, you know, every day. And I used to just be like, I wish I had that. And so, you know, I told her, I said, you know, you didn't know that I was admiring you from afar, because I was ashamed. My biological father made me feel bad about it, and I kept that shame over me for many years. And so we just want to say to somebody that's dealing with grief and dealing with shame, listen, you don't have to stay in that place. You know, can I just say this, and I'm going to pass the baton to Lady Phelps. I want to say this, because in sharing Ravery's story of how I watched her as a teenage mother, you know, just boldly carry her son. And I mean, even into our, you know, graduation and just boldly, you know, walking in it. I admired her from afar. I was too young to tell her, but I admired her from afar. But do you know that the enemy, when LA passed away, the enemy tried to take me all the way back to that moment of shame. It almost made me feel bad. Like, how can you feel so sorry when you were so embarrassed about him at one time? And I had to overcome. Listen, there's a lot attached to grief. Who am I talking to that's watching me in this moment? There's a lot attached to grief, that all of a sudden those hidden things that were lying dormant and lying within will have an opportunity to resurface itself, because the enemy wants to keep you feeling depressed and feeling bad. But I overcame that shame, and I began to, you know, encourage myself that I love my son, whether I was publicly, you know, everybody knew that I was pregnant as a teenage mother, you know, or not. At the end of the day, I'm so unashamed now that I love to share my story. Like Lady Phelps was saying, writing a book, talking about it, because as long as you can tell somebody else what you've been through and overcome it, then guess what? The shame is no longer on you. So Ravery, I applaud you for then, and I applaud you for now. And I hate that it took all these years for us to have our first conversation, but I'm so glad God connected us on this journey. Our sons are all up there in heaven, and they brought us together in this moment. So I thank God for that. So
God's timing.
God's timing. That's it.
right.
It's God's timing. And
That's
Lady
right.
Phelps, how can everybody get in touch with you? You're doing so many awesome things, you know, in the marketplace, in the ministry. How can everybody get in touch with you as well?
LoranaPhelps.com. It'll lead you to everything about me, everything I'm doing in ministry, everything I'm doing in the marketplace. Lorana Phelps, all of my social media platforms, New Faith Christian Church with my wonderful husband, Bishop Phelps. But Bishop Marlyn, I hope I'm not out of order, because you said something that was so powerful earlier. get counseling. Grief counseling is a winner, and it
that's
does work. And I wish someone would have told me that in my early process, because a lot of times Christians kind of just don't, and I hate to say it, and our culture has taught us that something is wrong with you for counseling. But if I could just make a plug of the offices of Stephanie Hughes, is a awesome grief counselor. Get counseling. It works. Thank you, Bishop.
Oh, you're welcome. And make sure that, we're also putting that information in there. Stephanie Hughes. I know somebody said, who is that? Stephanie Hughes. Lady Phelps is going to put it in the comment section as well as her website, how to get in touch with her and all the amazing things she's doing in the marketplace, with her ministry. Girl, fix yourself. I just love that, as well as New Faith, where her and her awesome husband pastor a dynamic, thriving ministry. And so make sure that you connect with them. Sisters, before we go, our time is up, and I'm also putting in the comment section things about motivation with Dr. Marlyn. Make sure that you get the Journey to You products. I've got the t-shirts, the tote bags. Listen, we've got it all in the basket. So make sure that you go to my website as well. But sisters, as we get ready to log off, what one word would you leave somebody with? Not even just a mom that's dealing with grief or a father that's dealing with grief, but what one word would you like to leave on this note, just to empower, encourage, and motivate someone as they're fulfilling their life's purpose, overcoming life's challenges and situations, going from pain to purpose, going from tragedies to triumph, to walk in the excellency of what God has on their life? I'll ask Sharon, Lady Phelps, and then Ravery. What's the one word you would leave them with?
Strength. Strength. Yes.
Love it. Love it. Lady Phelps?
Live.
Yeah.
I love it. Ravery?
Laugh.
Laugh.
Laugh. I really like laughing. It makes me feel good.
I love that. And my one word is win. So between strength, live, laugh, and win, you have it all right here. We want you to walk in it. We want you to be all that God has called you to be. Thank you for tuning in, joining us, hanging out with us here at Motivation Moment with Marlyn. Thank you so much for being a part of the family. Make sure you hashtag Journey to You. And don't forget, our word to you is to walk in the strength of God, to live in the purpose of God, to laugh like you've never laughed before, because you're winning with the hand that you have been dealt. God bless you all, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Thank
you. Bye.
I want to encourage you that no matter what you're going through, what you have been through, or what it looks like, God has the master plan for your life. And He can turn your worst days into your best days. He will give you beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. God will move you from pain to purpose. So you be encouraged on today. From pain to purpose, been through some tough times, but never stop letting the light of Jesus shine. I'm determined to pass through these tests and trials. I'm focused on my destiny and what God has for me. Been through the valley, been through the fire, been to the mountain, walked through the flood, but through it all, I'm standing stronger. God was there all along. Been through the valley, been through the fire, been to the mountain, walked through the flood, but through it all, He carried me, and now I'm finally free. Oh, pain to purpose. I'm going from pain to purpose. Oh, pain to purpose. I'm going from pain to purpose.
making boss moves. That was his ticket. Till I got the car. I felt I lost it all. A mama broken hearted, a family feeling lost. Having faith, you see, we put our trust in God. We got D, long live the boss. He's got his angel wings and a fresh